welcome. For all of those that may be tuned in and listening and watching this on the A Blog to Watch main YouTube channel, welcome to our takeover from A Blog to Watch Weekly and the Hit Miss Maybe squad for this, the first night of Watches and Wonders. We're going to do our best to go through as many Watches and Wonders releases in the next hour or so and give our Hit Miss Maybe vote. We will be joined hopefully by a couple of others as they log on. But we will make a start by quickly going around those that are here and seeing where they are and what they have chosen to wear for this auspicious evening. So, Azad, where are you? Because I know you're not in Geneva. Despite the high quality of your green screen, where are you and what are you wearing?
Hi, thanks, Rick. Thanks for having me on. I'm in West London, and today I've decided to go swatch group, I'm afraid. And I'm wearing I don't know if you can see that, but the new white Speedmaster, or the Daniel Craig as it's now being referred to.
Is that right? Is that you that's referring to it as that, or is that a general consensus?
I've heard a few people now refer to it, but yeah, I quite like that. I don't mind.
Good stuff. Guy, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Don't know what time it is where you are, but where are you and what are you wearing? And try and avoid complete self-promotion.
I mean, that's hard. I am near Bournemouth, sunny south coast. I'm wearing a D-Trash like Mania. You can see it.
Good stuff. Cool. And William, we haven't seen you for a couple of weeks. Actually, you've been missing. I've been missing. I've flopping.
I've been flipping and flopping as to whether I actually come onto the thing or not. I've been missing for the last 3 weeks, but it's really nice to be back. I'm coming to you from a still a little bit sunny Kent, and this evening I'm wearing my 1960s Oyster Perpetual 36mm on a new leather strap, and the company which I got it from shall remain nameless because I paid full retail for it, and I'm not sponsored in any way at all yet. Anyway, there we go.
Yet.
Yes.
Good stuff. And I'm in Scotland and I'm wearing a Panerai because, of course, they are represented. We will see if we decide to include them in this week's Hit Miss Maybe for doing this. If you're in the chat, you can obviously also play along. Let's make a start. We're going to go a mix via the exhibiting maisons on the website of Watches and Wonders and all the coverage that the A Blog to Watch team have been putting out so far today, which I have to say is vast. I think they've managed so far to put out 55 articles. Bearing in mind they don't get, a heads up on quite a lot of this stuff. Some of it they're having to sit there and do straight away. But we're going to make a start by looking at all things A. Lang and Zona. So I shall share the A. Lang and Zona screen, and we will see that what they have chosen to highlight is the Perpetual Tourbillon Honey Gold Lumen. Gentlemen, this is quite a nice looking watch. It fills all the loom stuff that Ripley was on about in the show a wee while ago. I don't know if you could eat the loom that this is made of, but let's give it a quick reaction. Is it a hit? Is it a miss? Or is it a maybe? 1, 2, 3, go. Show me your signs. Oh, we're going all high tech from Azad there. So maybe, miss, and 2 hits. Oh, interesting. Variety. It's a spice of life. Let's start with Guy, because the chances are Will's going to change his mind by the time somebody's actually spoken about this. So, Guy, why is this a hit?
It's just, I think that they as a company, they're kind of classic, and it's classic, and it looks nice. I think it's more with them that there's absolutely nothing bad I could say about it that makes it a hit. A lot of the other releases is bad that you can say about, but there's just nothing bad to say.
And if there was anything about it, I mean, my problem, that's why I've given this a maybe, is I'm just not sure that what it looks like through the day. Like, it feels like I want to wipe it as if it's got something on it.
I would say I prefer the blue one. Of the two, I prefer the blue. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
but it's kind of faultless, I'd say.
A faultless watch. We can share their blog to watch coverage on this while Will talks us through why he gave it a hit and if he has yet changed his mind.
So I'm sticking with hit. I agree with Guy. It's pretty much almost faultless. Other than I'm not sure it contains a minute repeater, but if you could just have squeezed one of those in there, that would be perfect. The symmetry is amazing. Reading about how they wanted everything to be perfectly symmetrical. It's just a beautiful watch, and I think you just spend all of your time looking at it, which may make it a maybe, I suppose, if it distracts you from everything. But it's a stunning, absolutely stunning, and ultimately probably very unobtainable watch.
Mm-hmm. Azad, you gave it a miss. Why is this not doing it for you?
Okay, I'm going to be a bit controversial. I really dislike see-through sapphire dials. I just think they look tacky. That big date sapphire dial reminds me of a Zelos that came out just 2 days ago. The rest of the watch looks fantastic, but just get rid of that sapphire dial. I can't stand it. But that's really it for me. Small change would move it up.
A small change. Good stuff. Ripley has entered the building looking perfectly harassed for the first day of Watches and Wonders. Ripley, we are trying to discuss the A Blog to Watch coverage. And at the moment, we are in our first brand, which is A. Lang & Zona. Have you been to that particular brand today so far?
Sorry, I missed most of what you said on that one. It was cutting out.
The joys of hotel internet. We're discussing the A. Lang & Zona, the Honeygold Lumen, the Hit Miss Maybe. What would you have given it?
Oh, the biggest of hits. Like, hit that thing twice, one for each wrist. That thing is so cool. Like, Longa makes beautiful, beautiful classic watches, but in my opinion, like the really cool stuff is that Lumen side of the brand where it's definitively modern. Is it perfect? No, but like this thing is just too cool. And I mean, more honey gold is something we all want. So yeah, this is a firm hit for me.
More honey gold in our lives. Ripley, you're at the show. What's been your experience so far?
It's good. It's busy. I feel like there's fewer novelties than last year, but it's good. I like, I always have a good time. It's always good to see what brands put forward. So it's interesting. It's a quiet year from some brands. It's a busy year for others, but I think it's an interesting show.
Good stuff. Well, let's continue the interest and let's have a look. I don't think we've covered this yet on the A Blog to Watch site, so we will have a look at the Watches and Wonders media and what the brand chose to share with everybody, and that is a Bremont. So Bremont, first time appearance at Watches and Wonders, and they are highlighting the Terra Nova. And I think this is going to prove to be one of those releases that does create some chat. I think there's already been quite a bit online. But how do you guys vote? Do you guys vote this as a hit, a miss, or a maybe? 1, 2, 3, go. We have maybes, misses, maybes. So it's a lot of Ripley's flip-flopping. He's a kind of miss, maybe. I gave this a maybe because maybe it just seems unfair to give it a miss straight away. You're looking at it in relation to the rest of the brand, I'm like, what is this? The logo, the handset, it's just, there's a lot going on in this watch. But maybe that's just the direction that Davide Shirato wants to take it and thinks will sell. The entry level has come in at $2,500. This one I think is more like $4,500. Azad, what do you think of this?
So I think Bremont has gotten to a stage where their old design sort of aesthetic has won over as many people as it could. And
Right.
if they were going to expand any further, they needed to change things up quite dramatically. I do think they're going to lose a lot of faithful customers over this change. But at the same time, the reduction in price, the still quite tool aesthetic, I think is going to open up the market quite a bit for them for a lot of new supporters. Personally, I prefer the look of these over the previous design aesthetics, but at the same time, it's still pretty early days, like I said, Rick.
Guy, I think you have some strong opinions.
Well, yeah. So at first, it was a definite, absolutely hate. I thought it was terrible. And then I kind of thought about it, and I saw those pictures with Jimmy Chin on the website, and I'm a fan of Jimmy Chin's more than anything. But I kind of thought, for a start, I think Azad's right. Like the old branding, there's only so much you can do with propellers as your logo. It doesn't take you into a few areas. So it kind of opens it up to a new audience. And then I started looking at it a bit like a really good Swiss Army watch. It's like an upgrade of that kind of tool watch, looking up. And I think that does probably open it up to a new audience at about the $2,000-3,000 mark. I do, and kind of as I said earlier, I think the logo is like the London 2012 logo that everyone's going to hate it at first, but suddenly they're going to realise it's genius at some point down the road, or not.
Will, were you expecting someone to eventually recognise the inner genius of this Bremont?
I think it's a bold step in a new direction, but to echo what people have said, it probably needed to happen. And I can see it being super popular. I said maybe because it's probably going to take a little bit of time to settle in. But with the blue dial, particularly on the brown leather strap, it's a proper adventurer style of watch that perhaps people may have started on, say, Fossil or something like that in that style. And I've seen enough videos from Hodinkee and people where they interview proper adventurers for National Geographic, etc. And they always go back to Rolex Explorer, etc. But it's all this particular type of style of watch. And from seeing the noted climber in the marketing, that sold it to me because I'm a sucker and easily led, as my flip-flopping is clearly evident. And I'm willing to buy into it. I'd like to get hands-on with it just to see what it's like. But yeah, I'm willing to buy into it. And at that price point, it's probably a fair price point because everything is going up in price at the moment. So yeah.
Ripley, have you been to the Bremont stand?
No, not yet. I'm having dinner with the brand and Jimmy Chin tomorrow, and so I'll get to see the watches in person then. For me, instinctively, I want to say this is a miss, but I'm going to kind of reserve judgment, so it's kind of a miss maybe. I think it's so different that I'm not really on board with what it looks like. There's a lot that's different compared to what we know about Bremont's historical design language. That said, new CEO, we knew that there were going to be some big aesthetic changes happening. So this was more or less inevitable. I very much like the price point. I like that they're using 904L stainless steel, even though that's kind of an intangible difference. It's a nice thing that they're doing. But there's a lot, the proportions seem a little weird. This seems so un-Bremont that it almost seems more like some Spinnaker watch that from a few years ago, but I'm going to reserve my final judgment until I can actually see it in the metal.
It does feel very, very busy. And yeah, maybe a second iteration, the Bremont 1.2.11 or whatever they're going to be, will be the one that really takes it off. But they're really trying to fight into a completely different price point, a brand that is not so focused on price point, but is certainly worth a look. Although, interestingly, as I share it, this is the watch that they have chosen to highlight on their Watches and Wonders page. Is Cartier, and Cartier have decided, if I can find it. Cartier have decided that the Watches and Wonders page that they want to share displays something that wouldn't necessarily be considered for all the watch geeks. Excuse me while I try to undo the Watches and Wonders website to actually show me something other than Bremont. Bremont appears to just want to dominate the website. But there you go. I'm sure they'll be quite pleased with that. But here is Cartier, and Cartier have chosen to display this little number, the animal jewellery watch, as a thing they're leading with, not the new creations, the Jewel Time, which I will now attempt to find within their Watches and Wonders presentation. I don't know if you're all yet familiar. It's asking me to shop. There we go. I actually want to know. See, all the pop-ups, really, they need to stop this. This is unfair on the rest of us. How is the Cartier stall at the moment, Ripley? Was it busy?
So there's actually two of them. There's two of them. There's like one that's where the meetings all happen, and then there's this other one that's this very nice open air display area that people are free to walk through without getting in the way of people who are trying to do their job. So I think Cartier has a great booth or booths this year, and it's Cartier, so it's not like we've got black walls where it's impossible to photograph anything in it. So I think they did a really good job with the booths this year.
Cool. Well, this is the one I want us to look at, the Santos de Cartier Jewel Time. I think this is the boy that's worth our vote. So let's do that. If you're in the chat, you can also join in. So hit, miss, or maybe. Hit. Oh, it's a clean sweep. Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a hit. Cartier Santos is just one of the coolest watches, and this Jewel's Time, although the centre of it now does bear a striking resemblance to the new Bremont logo, but less said about that the better, is quite spectacular. Azad, what do you think?
Yeah, it's an easy hit. I mean, it's a bit of an iteration on a favourite from everybody, and they've kept it quite slim, unlike other GMTs that have come out today. So yeah, it's an easy one, really.
Good stuff, Guy.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with Azad. It's a variation of a classic. It's nice that it's a 12-hour GMT and not a 24-hour, which I don't, or a 12-hour second time, which I really like. And it's just, I don't think you can go wrong with that watch. It would be hard to mess that model up too much.
Yes, I mean, I dare say somebody would have a go at it. It's certainly a very, very fancy website they've developed for it, if nothing else. This is quite spectacular. Will, what do you think? Cartier fan?
Yes, it's big Cartier fan. It's sporty, but there we go. You're trying to mute my opinions.
Instant volume. I'm trying to drown you out with Cartier.
You knew I was going to be controversial about Cartier. It's sporty and elegant, and the blue gem on the crown as well is really nice. So it's a hit for me, definitely.
Good stuff. And Ripley, what do you think?
I like the watch personally. I think one of the things that is most difficult for GMTs or dual time watches is to maintain the clean design. And that becomes increasingly more true when a brand takes like a 2 or 3-handed model and then turns it into a GMT. All too often we get ridiculous bezels, scales all over the place, maybe a hand that isn't quite proportioned to the rest of the dial because they kind of stuck a 4th hand on there. This fixes all of that. Granted, because there's only one 12-hour hand on that little register with the day and night indicator, it's not necessarily the most intuitive to read because you have to read the hours on the little hand with the little subdial and then the minutes on the primary time-telling hands. But, I mean, what you get instead is a dual-time Santos that still largely looks like a Santos. They haven't cluttered it up or anything. So, yeah, that's a hit for me, and it comes in under 10 grand, so even better.
Yeah, they do seem to maintain their price point. It doesn't feel like a brand or a range in a brand that's suddenly gone from, I mean, it probably has, but that just every opportunity they get, they stick another £1,000 on it. It feels like an increasingly competitive proposition when surrounded by its stablemates from Rolex, Omega, the other major brands. Okay, let's go to one of the small brands, and no Watches and Wonders is complete without a visit to this mob. Ferdinand Berthoud. Just love them. I actually don't care whether it's a hit or miss. I mean, I don't care what any of you think. I don't care what any of you thinks. If money was no object, it would be two of these, or two of anything from Ferdinand Berthoud. This is the Chronometer FB1 RES.4. They maybe could do something with their naming. It needs a name like Will, give us what should you call this watch? Like an actual name. We've got Batman's and that at Rolex. This should have a thing, not just a number.
Let me think about it. I don't know.
Puts you on the spot. I mean, we had suggestions earlier on for the new Rolex on the WhatsApp chat, which we'll come on to soon. But let's give this Ferdinand Berthoud a hit, miss, or maybe treatment. Now, dare any of you to say anything other than a hit. 1, 2, 3, go. Oh, Guy, what are you doing to me? Right, Guy, justify yourself.
Okay, and this is maybe controversial and not good judging. I don't like the strap. I think the strap looks weak on the watch. Like the watch stands out. Like maybe, I mean, it might look a bit Hublot-y if it had like a rubber strap, but I feel like the strap doesn't match it.
Out.
But you can see it doesn't. It's too classic. The strap is too classic for that watch, I think. But the watch itself is lovely. I do like the face, the dial, everything else. I also think the strap looks like it's like 2 mil too thin for the watch. But take the strap away, I love it.
Take the strap away, mount it on your desk, and it's fine. Azad?
Do you know, I put it here, but I can see the point about the strap. It doesn't fit, does it? I mean, they could have gone with... It needed to be something a little bit more high-tech, but, I mean, the trouble is, with something this expensive, you're going to have to go for a premium quality strap, don't you? So, I mean, otherwise, it's an amazing looking watch. The movement as well, constant force, deadbeat seconds by the looks of it as well. It looks great.
Yeah. Will, you are in relationship with a couple of well-known strap production people. Would an orange rubber strap or a Bark and Jack needle?
I did not say orange rubber, just to be clear.
What do we think? What one of your strap collection would you put on this?
I mean, I would instantly go for orange rubber, and it needs some sort of. It would need like an Oyster Flex type, something substantial and a bit wider. I agree. I think the strap needs to be a bit wider, like a 22 mil or something like that. And I think that would go really nicely because of the way everything tapers towards the lugs as well. I think that would be good. But I mean, in seriousness, probably not bright orange. I think black would go nicely because it's a stealthy kind of watch. The Blackbird, something like that. If I was going to nickname it, but beautiful watch.
Oh, what about the Kevlar strap that Fears did a while back on their Platinum watch? Do you remember that one?
Yeah,
I think that could work.
Bulletproof.
Yeah.
Ripley agrees. Ripley, have you seen this in the flesh yet?
No, but I agree with what everyone said about the strap. That has no purpose on that watch. This is the equivalent of putting like a Lamborghini on like old school like white wall rim tires. Like that, it makes no sense. Or it's like wearing hockey gear and then like a pair of like leather loafers. Like none of this makes sense. That said, the same thing could be said about like 90% of Seikos. Watch is great, strap's rubbish. Just discard the strap, put one on of your choice and move forward. And that's exactly how I feel with this. They give you some nice gator looking thing. I can even do with that big watch on small strap look. I think that's, I'm okay with that as a proportions, but the strap is so delicate and old school and nothing about the watch is in that vibe. So I don't like the strap. Everything else about it, absolutely. Like what's not to like? The thing looks fantastic. Chain and Fusi, that's like half bicycle, half watch, all on favor of that. So like anything with that type of setup, it's in terms of power delivery, I'm going to be on board with it. They just look awesome. So it's a hit. it's a hit. And if you're buying this watch, you can get a replacement strap. You can afford that. So, it's still a hit for me.
So half watch, half bicycle. Have you heard of the band Half Man, Half Biscuit? No, that hasn't reached the States. There we go. So anyway, that's the theme. Maybe they should get a sponsorship deal with Ferdinand Bertud. Yeah, and also thanks everybody, because this has now become one of those can't unsee things. I can't unsee the fact that the strap doesn't fit the watch. So thanks for that. Each RM in the chat is talking about Parmigiani and the new tank. Ripley, have you come across? You get a chance to visit either of those stands there, or looking longingly in the window?
No, we were pretty much on task between the meetings and the video content for most of today. So I haven't had a chance to look at any of the Parmigiani ones. As usual, they're going to be well executed. And so if you can vibe with the style, it's probably going to be a very satisfying timepiece. But my experience with a lot of Parmigiani watches is they are a lot better in person than they look in photos. So if you're on the fence about it and you like kind of what it's putting forward, you're probably going to like it more in the metal. So I'm optimistic about anything that the brand pushes forward, unless it's like the old Calpagraphs where everything about that's wrong.
well, next up, we're going to talk Grand Seiko. The regular, although not quite as oddball, previous years it's been the main non-European brand that has been there. Interesting to see how it is received this year. But Grand Seiko Evolution 9, I'm imagining, before I even scroll down on this, that we have things named after things. Let's see if we can discover more and see just the first. It's like Grand Seiko Bingo, the first mention of a mountain or a hill or some let's say life's pleasures, senses. We've got senses. Have we got any reference? Oh, have they managed not to refer to any location in Japan as part of the SLGW 003? Well, it's a pretty looking watch, but do you think it will be a hit, a miss, or a maybe? 1, 2, 3, go. Maybe hit, maybe, yeah, it seems to be. Maybe it's a miss from Will. Azad, why is it a hit?
I just think it's a gorgeous looking watch. Terrific movement. They've shrugged these down of late, so they're going to start appealing to more people, which I think is good. My only disappointment is they've used this birchwood kind of dial on previous iterations. They need to come up with something a bit more different if they want to keep pushing these things along. But they seem to have quite a lot of these iterations, different ways of matching case with different dials and then different movements. So they seem to have a lot more of these permutations that they can do before they run out of ideas, or maybe even introduce some new colours. That would be nice.
More new colours. Guy, how did you vote and why?
I voted maybe, and actually not on the watch itself, but more like if you're going to put your one watch forward at Watches and Wonders, I think you should do a bit better. Like, it's a bit boring. But it's a nice watch.
I thought it was a bit of a dull one to be the one you see when you go to the website, as opposed to the likes of the chronograph. If we go to the Grand Seiko Spring Drive release, which is this one here, which is on their Blog to Watch website, the Grand Seiko Sport, that feels a bit more like, it makes like that's you put some effort in and you've done something. Like if you told me this Grand Seiko, the other one was released 5 years ago, I'd have, it looks like it could have been. Yeah,
but Will, it's nice.
What do you think of Grand Seiko?
I said it was a miss simply because it's just a bit boring. To be a little bit stronger on it. It looks nice. It's okay. I actually I really like the strap. If anything else, and that will probably get me struck off ever appearing on one of these programs ever again. And I do apologize because I'm sure they put a lot of work into the watch. I know they do, but I'm just a bit bored. I agree. I think compared to the other the other pieces that the other brands have shown up to with, it was just a little bit boring for me. So I've said a miss. I mean, it's obviously going to be a beautiful watch that's going to be blah 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 blah, but no.
So this strap on the Ferdinand Berthoud, Ripley, discuss.
I honestly, I would love to see the Kevlar strap from like that Platinum Fears on the Ferdinand Berthoud. I like the concept of this Grand Seiko more than I like what it actually is. I like the standard white birch a lot. But if you don't wear it on the bracelet, it has a pretty wide lug width. So I think a smaller version just makes a lot of sense. That said, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I would have almost rather had Grand Seiko introduce this alongside a different dial, or just debut this kind of hand-wound smaller platform with a more exciting dial, and then add the like white birch style one, to the collection a bit later. It just doesn't it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I'd happily wear it. Great piece. There's nothing I can really find wrong about it, except it just doesn't really excite me. That red chrono is definitely not what I could personally wear. So it's, they don't excite me, but like, I can't really nitpick with that hand wound, piece. It's great. It's just not exciting. It's great. But like, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, Tim in the chat, I think, is agreeing by saying the dials are boring. I assume he's talking about the Grand Seiko and not this Nix watch. I'm not even sure if the Nix watch actually has a dial. I don't really understand it, but it's Hublot. And while the rest of the show so far seems to have been a bit dull, Hublot have brought some game. You can always rely on Hublot or somebody like that to go, like, here's just something absolutely mad and crazy. And so this is the MP10 Tourbillon weight energy system. I don't think it really matters how it works or what it does. I think it just matters whether you think that this looks cool, and therefore whether it's a hit, a miss, or a maybe. So let's give it a vote on the basis that you actually know nothing about it other than what it looks like. Hit, miss, or maybe. Oh, come on. It's clearly a hit, gentlemen. It's clearly, yeah, exactly. Ripley knows what's going on. Azad, how very dare you vote miss, but why?
I mean, what is it? Just tell me what it is. What is that button on the back?
It's Hublot opening a door to the future of watchmaking. That's what it is. It's the future of, this is 10, 15 years from now, this is what we're all going to be wearing, because this is the future, at least according to Hublot.
Yeah.
So take from that what you will, but you seem to be a bit dubious on that. Guy, how dubious are you on all things Hublot and this in particular?
I went miss because I think it's quite hard to tell the time on.
Yes, it does seem to be a kind of core constituent of a watch normally.
Yeah, and I feel, you can be quite creative and do quite fun stuff, but if you can't tell the time on it, that's... and I did say that when it was released in a chat somewhere, and someone said, actually, it's really easy to tell the time, but I'm not convinced. And I'm not a Hublot hater, per se.
No, I think it's fair to say that people who are Hublot haters probably really don't understand what's going on. You don't get it. You need to get it. Will, do you get it?
Of course. Always get it. You don't need to be able to tell the time on it, because that's why you have a phone to tell you the time. This is just something that's quite a spectacle. I said maybe. I probably should have. I may even flip flop and actually give it a hit. I think it is. Only because I've just come back off holiday. It's the older gentleman that's walking down the beach in just the what they call the budgie smugglers, the very, very small swim shorts, which are way too small for him. But he's so proud and he's got such game and he's just struggling. That is this watch. It doesn't care what you think. It doesn't. It's beautiful in its own mind and it's done its best. And I think that's what it is. So I'd probably say it's a hit. and because it annoys lots of other people as well.
I'm liking Tim in the chat is basically saying put MBNF on this and not Hublot, and everyone will think it's the best thing since sliced bread, which I think is a fair point. And Ripley would seem to agree. Go on, Ripley.
Yeah, it's Hublot haters or people who just don't like this design language. But if you put Urwerk or MB&F on the dial of this, everyone would be losing their minds, and people would even say it was underpriced. Look at this thing; it's rad. It looks unique. I like all of the MP series from Hublot, but yeah, this is one where I think the brand is going to be a tougher pill to swallow for some people. But like, you know, if you don't like the Big Bang aesthetic, this is so far different from that. And I mean, just look at the thing. It's a technological little box of all sorts of awesome on your wrist. How can you not like it?
Yeah. I think the more I look at it, the more it does actually look like a pair of budgie smugglers. It's rather unfortunate, actually. You could just draw a line, two little spindly legs, somebody 40 years younger than them standing next to them. Yeah. Anyway, right.
He's got like a rotating disc for the minutes at the crotch. I don't come on, man.
That's it. You ruined Ferdinand for me. I ruined Hublot for you. The question here, though, is: have IWC done anything this year to ingratiate themselves to the crowd? And they have led with the Portuguese Eternal calendar. Now, as I understand it, this is not like their normal perpetual calendar, which is also fantastic. This goes for a couple of 100 years longer. I don't so that when you reach, I think it's 2100, it does the additional correction that would be needed to be done manual so that it can run to 2400, I think.
No. It goes up to 4000, my friend. 4,000.
4,000.
Yo, let me vent on this one for a bit. This thing is awesome. So it's a secular perpetual calendar. Secular perpetual calendar means it does that leap year thing on the 100, 2100, 2200, 2300. 2400 is a leap year. Now it goes up to 4,000, and the only reason it stops there is because we as humans have not yet determined whether 4,000 is or is not a leap year yet. So they've basically gone as far as we can go in the future, all the way up to 4,000. Now, well done on that. But the moon phase complication is accurate up to 45 million years.
I mean, how does anybody know? How does anybody know? Do I take this back to the dealer and say, I'm sorry, mate, this moon phase, this is out of whack, this moon phase. I looked at the moon, and that's not what I saw.
What the crazy... Maybe you're looking at the southern hemisphere. It does both. The crazy part about this is no one on this chat, no one who's seen this watch today is even going to be alive that the first time a regular perpetual calendar fails to correct for the leap year. That's in 2100. That's in like 76 years in the future. I'm going to be well over 100 at that point. So the fact that no one can even verify in real time whether or not this watch says what it does, that's kind of spectacular. And 45 million years, we might not be around as a species then, but your moon phase will still be accurate. Plus, with that glass dial with the white lacquer on the other side, platinum case, oh my God, this thing's rad. I love this watch.
It takes a licking but keeps on ticking. So we're saying this is the new Timex. Good stuff. Right, well, let's give it a vote.
Before we vote, one thing to ponder. It should keep time for
the wrong kind of strap.
No. It'll keep time for thousands of years, allegedly, and we can't necessarily verify it. But think about the number of times you're going to need to have it serviced. So the fact that you don't need to correct the time is more or less negated by the fact that by the year 4000, you're going to have to service this thing so many times. So like manual intervention to correct the movement is almost null and void once you're dealing with the realm of thousands of years. That being said, it's still really rad, but let's just keep this in perspective that you can't actually verify it, that it does what it says.
HRM in the chat is asking whether IWC are guaranteeing to carry the parts for 4,000 years. I'm curious as to whether there's like a really tiny microscopic post-it note inside this that when the watchmaker opens it at the service, it just says, mate, just go and advance that setting 200 years. They'll never know that all we've done is just moved a cog over and that's what you do every so often. It doesn't really run for 4,000 years. It's just that there's a wee thing you like pull a little lever off and it sorts it for the next 200 on the basis that you'll at least need to get it serviced every 200 years. But let's give it a vote. Is it a hit? Is it a miss? Or is it a maybe? Hit. Yeah, of course, it's a hit all round. Who else would like to weigh in? Azad, would you like to weigh in on this?
Yeah, I mean it's a gorgeous looking watch. I mean we can figure out if it'll get the date right in 2100. We just have to wind it forward. The problem is, what do we then do after we get to that point? Obviously, have to take it back for a very expensive service when they reset it, if they can reset it. But no, it's a great looking watch. I love the way that the dial falls off the edges. I think that gives it a lot of depth. It's not too big, 44 mil, I think. Wearable for a reasonable sized wrist. Yeah, exactly. Yep. It's no, I think it looks great.
Good stuff, Guy. You happy with the strap?
Happy with the strap. I'm a big IWC fan generally, and especially when they do more classic looking stuff. So I think it just looks lovely, and I think like especially when you compare to the last watch, the Hublot, of like engineers looking at what they can do and what can be technical and how you can be surprising. I think this is a much nicer iteration of like doing something for the fuck of it than the Hublot is.
Yep. I will.
Yeah, I said it was a hit, and I even drew more kind of little exclamation points around it because it's such a hit. This is definitely the Star Watch. I can't even begin to imagine how technically all of this works, and it's all possible. But you're not so much, I suppose, kind of looking after it for the next generation, to quote a different brand, probably the next evolutionary leap in our species, I suppose. I saw one of the other watches and wonders is I think it's the Vacheron, which is the pocket watch, which is the most complicated watch created. But I think this IWC is still more impressive. I think that blows my mind even more. And along with reminding me of my own mortality, which is fantastic, as I reach middle age, which is great, which is always great. So I need to go out and buy those budgie smugglers again. That's sorry, I'm playing a bingo game. The amount of times I can mention that. Anyway,
just wait till I edit this and fit you with them.
Thank you very much. Thank you. But no, it's absolutely stunning, and the way that the crystal curves around as well, the outside, it's just a beautiful watch. Even if it didn't do anything of what it claimed, it would still be a beautiful watch just to wear. Stunning.
I do wonder. I mean, is it really that difficult? Or are they like, this is really, really difficult? And then the watchmaker's like, well, you just put that in there. You just need one that's got 32 teeth on it rather than 28 teeth. That's fine. It's not that difficult. Just give us 20 minutes to get it sorted. Ripley?
So it is kind of genius in its simplicity. There's one gear that rotates so slowly. I think it's like one rotation every 400 years or something like that. And that one gear system has 3 watches on it that correspond with the skipped leap years. The fact that they're able to engineer a piece that moves a quarter rotation every century, that requires an immense amount of precision because you can imagine with such a small amount of movement in a calendar year, like, a fraction of a degree type of thing. You have to figure that, there's a lot of technical prowess that went into it. That being said, this is still based upon the brand's standard perpetual calendar movement. So it's not like the whole thing had to be a soup to nuts rebuild. Instead, they had to focus on creating these 2 very specific modules. The first for the moon phase, which is its own little animal. And then the other is to make the perpetual calendar compensate for these non-leap years. So it's actually really elegantly designed given what it does and how crazy that is. Because on paper, you'd be like, this is magic. But then when you actually strip it down a bit, you're like, wait, this is just a evolved version of the brand's standard perpetual calendar. So with the exception of these 2 specific modules that relate to its unique functionality, a lot of the standard parts are shared with the standard perpetual calendar movement from the brand. And so that does bode well for like things like your mainspring, reversing wheels, whatever, those things that are going to need to be replaced average service intervals. If a gear makes one rotation in 400 years, I can't imagine that's a high friction part. So you're probably safe there. But, I think part of the genius of this is how elegantly and simply are able to accomplish something that is kind of mind bending when you think about like the Gregorian calendar itself that this tracks has been around less than 500 years. The fact that we're good till year 4000 is sort of crazy. That's multiple times longer than our calendar that we follow has even existed. So, I really appreciate this watch because of how simply it's able to accomplish these technological feats.
Yeah. So I have a Da Vinci perpetual calendar, and it comes with like the wee numeral set, so that when it changes, you go and you get the number changed when it goes round full circle. I want to know if this comes with like a 3 and a 4 to put on the Millennium side of things. Like, have they actually backed themselves by including the appropriate spare parts for future use? So Ripley, if you haven't been to IWC already, that's your task. What's it actually is it going to come with the additional bits that are required?
I bet it doesn't. I think the whole point of this one is, rather than having that that the first 2 digits be fixed, I think this one actually has those built into it. Once you get past the year 3,999, all bets are off. But I wouldn't be surprised if they had actually gone the extra mile and made that 2 go into a 3. So you got an extra space there. I really, because the whole point is, in theory, this should be able to keep track of the time autonomously for the next, 2,000 years or whatever that is. So I wouldn't be surprised if they don't include the century disc, because it's actually built into the watch in this instance.
Yeah. I mean, bear in mind the Earth's rotation is slowing down.
And we're moving away further from the sun. Yeah, 4 million years.
Further away. So well, there we go. This is a question, right? So have they taken into account in their moon phase that actually, if you're like 4,000 years from now, the moon will be in a different place, spinning it. Have they allowed for that? Or 4,000 years, somebody looks up and is like, that's not where the moon is. This watch is wrong. I want my money back.
So that 4 million years is calculated mathematically. They used a specialized computer program to try out several trillion, with a T, trillion, different gearing combinations to find the optimal one that would lead to the longest accuracy. So this is all based in mathematics rather than actual practical theory. The mathematics of the ratio for the gears is such that it will only deviate by 1 day after 5 million years or whatever. So, I don't think they've been able to take into account the astronomical changes of what might happen over millions of years, but rather that this 45 million years is calculated mathematically based on the ratio.
Yeah. And that'll be the day that you are late for work for something. You had a really important meeting that day, and that's the day that it drops. Just all goes pear-shaped. Anyway, right. Let's move on to probably my favorite release. Like, when I saw that this was back, I was like, brilliant, because I loved this watch originally, and this is JLC. The geometers are back, and this is Geometer Moon, pink, gold, and platinum in various varieties. I think this is one of the watches that really got me into the hobby, along with Tim Mosso, who was a big fan of this and other JLCs at the time. I don't know if you gentlemen have any particular history with this watch or any particular liking for it, but we're about to find out. So is it a hit, a miss, or a maybe from you gentlemen? There's my sign upside down. There we go. Hit. Hit all round. Azad, tell us what you like about this.
It just looks awesome. I need to learn a little bit more about the watch, so hopefully you can tell me a bit more, but it just looks ridiculously complicated, yet still a bit dressy at the same time. I think it ticks a lot of boxes from an aesthetic perspective.
It was the watch that I was the most into until I discovered Ferdinand Berthoud, and then I was like, Ferdinand Berthoud. But this was the range of watches from JLC, and this feels like a JLC. This feels like JLC are actually doing something that warrants them being, the watchmaker's watchmaker. Guy, what do you think of the watchmaker's watchmaker?
Oh, I love it. Strap is great, fits nicely. Love the colour of the dial. And it's a bit like the one we started out with, the Lange & Söhne, which is like, you can't just... There's not really a bad word you could say about it. It just kind of looks like it's nicely done. Big hit. Awesome. I think it's...
So, Guy, you will now be known as the Strap Man, because that's you've been on once. Will was only on once, and he became the flip flopper. Will, what do you think?
I said it's a hit. I don't know a huge amount about the watch. I must confess, but what I can see, it looks absolutely stunning with the heritage of JLC. You can't go wrong, particularly. There's a beautiful symmetry to the dial, and that's all I'm going to say. Is just it looks beautiful. I'm sure it's gorgeous.
Good stuff. Ripley, breaking news beats on the chat is saying you're coming out with some bangers, and that's what's up. So Ripley, what's up with this from JLC?
Well, the duometer is a really cool concept. It uses two mainspring barrels, one dedicated to the time and the other that powers the complications. And the benefit of this is that rather than having that one power source divided and kind of with the parasites of the complications, which can ultimately detract from accuracy over the long course of long-term ownership. And once the power reserve gets low, the time is independently powered, that is, from the complications, although they are related to the same escapement. So you don't have that power draw coming from all these complications. These watches, absolute home run, but these aren't even the most complicated duometers that JLC unveiled this year. They have a heliotourbillon version that was launched alongside of these, which basically takes this concept, but puts in a triple axis tourbillon, which we know their gyro tourbillon. This adds a whole nother axis. So they really have leaned into the complex duometers, and that's the whole point of the duometer platform. You can put a bunch of complications in the thing without significantly compromising the accuracy. So I love the non-tourbillon versions. I think they're a bit better looking. But if you really just want to go nuts and have a little spinning mechanical top in your watch, the heliotourbillon is absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah, go nuts. Get yourself a heliotourbillon. And then try to figure out when you're actually ever going to wear it. Are JLC returning to form? What is their booth like this year, Ripley? It was my favorite.
There's fire. There's live fire in it. We were trying to record a bit, and there's like pyrotechnics going off. There's like this whole history of the brand thing going on front and center. Last year there was water. Now there's fire. But yeah, it's a whole spectacle. It absolutely ruined the take when people shout and flames go off, but so be it. It was undeniably impressive.
Good stuff. Right, well, let's go from the stand that's the best to normally the brand that has the best freebies, because a journalist likes nothing more than a good freebie, and this brand tends to have the best. So before we look at the new Oris, Ripley, rumours will already have spread about what the swag is from Oris. It took about 2 minutes last time for the swag to be known. Do we know what the swag is yet from Oris?
No, I haven't taken a meeting with them, and honestly, I've been so on task with other things. I haven't had a chance to see these in person yet. I remember seeing the press release when it came out under embargo. I think it's a great direction for the Aquis, but I have yet to acquire myself some Oris swag, so I can't be any use in that category.
I'll bet you Ariel knows what the swag is already, and he's already got like 4 bits of it reserved to take home for him and the family. So this is the Oris Aquis. It's still, when I saw this and people were going, "Oh, Oris got something," I was horrified because I thought new release they're gonna make it like 34 mil or something. But no, it's actually still 43.5. So it's still a proper sized dive watch from Oris. But it's been updated in several ways. I think it's a lot thinner, just looks clean. It's just like a proper refresh of a watch. But is it refreshing you gentlemen into wanting to buy one? So on the count of 3, hit, miss, or maybe. Hit, maybe, maybes. It's a bit maybe-ish. But Azad, you give it a hit. Are you an Oris fan?
I am, and I do really like this model, but I've always found it to be too large, too chunky for my wrist. I'd have to go all the way down to the really little ones to make it comfortable and wearable. So absolutely, the refresh, really helps here. My only kind of complaint would be they could have done something a little bit more interesting with it rather than just simply, change the case size and so on. But otherwise, I think it looks great.
It does feel like the dial just needs a little something. Just feels slightly bare, but I'm not sure why. Guy, do you like the strap?
I actually quite like the strap on this, although I don't really like straps that say the brand on the outside. But a big Panerai do that too, which I don't like. I like it a bit. To say I can't say that's too small, but I like it. I like the brand on the inside, not the outside. If I'm being particular, this was a maybe.
The man wearing a hat with his brand name on it.
Yeah, well, different jobs. But this is I gave it a maybe. This it's not. I wouldn't buy it. It's a bit meh, but they'd probably sell quite a lot in airports, I imagine. Yeah. It's people looking for a general watch.
Will, you going to an airport and buying this watch?
Well, in true honor of Oris, I'm wearing a teddy bear sweater today. Hashtag Oris bear. I said a maybe because I just agree with everything that Guy has just said in terms of it's not for me particularly, but I think it will find a bigger audience. I agree. I think perhaps the dial could do something a little bit more interesting. It's in terms of the style from the lugs and the strap, it's quite clean cut and it's a little bit more industrial, but the rest of it's just a little bit too shiny, and it doesn't get away with it in the same way that, say, a Breitling Super Ocean Heritage does. So it's not quite. It's a maybe for me.
Ripley?
I actually have to head off to a meeting with the brand shortly, but I will leave you with this on my words for this one. I agree that it's not quite as exciting, but at the same time, when I heard that they were doing a big overhaul of the Aquis, I was a little bit scared. The Aquis is kind of their flagship model. It's the one that's most unique to Oris, in my opinion. There's a lot of watches that look like the Diver 65. The Aquis is kind of its own thing. So they had to keep it true to the Aquis while also moving the needle forward in terms of wearability and proportion. So it's not super exciting, but at the same time, it does what it's set out to do, which is kind of be a more refined and evolved form of the Aquis. So, if it was super new and exciting, I would miss the old Aquis. And so I think this is a nice way for the brand to give the collection a solid update, position it for the next generation, but without abandoning the thing that actually made the Aquis such a success in the first place. And you know how the Aquis goes. There's going to, throughout the next years, I'm sure we're going to see this refined platform in a myriad of different executions. And if you don't like these, you very well might vibe with some of the others. So, this one isn't for me personally, but I like what they've done with it. I think it was a smart direction to not, try to make too many changes all at once and alienate those who were big Aquis fans and collectors from the get-go.
Mm. Well, it's that time, and it is that time to do so. Before we let Ripley escape, we'll very quickly have a look at Rolex and get Ripley's thoughts. Was the stand mobbed, waiting for everyone, the big curtain reveal this morning?
Oh, yeah. I caught a couple elbows. I threw a couple elbows. Rule number one about Fight Club, you don't talk about Fight Club. It was a mess outside the windows, the opening of it. One gentleman's using a tripod to box out. It was kind of hectic. And then the funniest thing is this is the thing under the glass that everyone was looking at. It's it's the bezel from the two-tone and yellow gold mixed with the dial and the hands from the green and black one. This isn't all that exciting to me personally, but it does make a lot of sense. Up until this one was released, you only had a GMT in pretty vibrant colors, blue, red, and blue, green. And a lot of people miss the all black GMT bezel. Now, this isn't all black and gray. It's far more understated. So those who wanted a GMT but didn't want a colorful watch, here you go. It makes perfect sense. I'm glad they did it. Now, my favorite release from Rolex, the yellow gold, full gold deep sea. Rolex is trolling us with that one. That thing is just awesome. But I love that it exists. It's like almost 3/4 of a pound of solid gold. It's a laughable thing. You don't need a weight belt on it, but what a ridiculous fun piece. I'm just happy that thing exists. And we always say Rolex is boring and there's no surprises left from the brand. I did not expect a yellow gold deep sea. So congratulations, Rolex. I am thoroughly surprised.
Yes. So that was your highlight. We're going to vote very quickly on this. So on the GMT, hit, miss, or maybe? Maybe hit, miss. Azad, tell us why it's a miss.
I mean, where's the Coke? We wanted the Coke. What's this?
we want the
Coke.
You sound you sound like Rishi Sunak talking about being addicted to Coke, our Prime Minister, and Mexican Coke in particular. But you wanted the Coke.
I'm sure he's on the Diet Coke. Anyway, yeah, I mean this is dull. Frankly, it's. I agree. There are better releases out this year, but I mean this isn't it. I understand why it's come out, but I don't think many people were really asking for this. But I'm sure there'll still be long waiting lists and big demand for it either way.
I'm sure you're right. Guy, are you getting your name down early for one of these?
I'm not a Rolex fan, but I think I've given it a hit because I think it will be a hit commercially. They'll sell as many as they could possibly make. There's not a lot to say about it. I thought it was called the Bruce Wayne, by the way. I've heard it referred to as the Bruce Wayne.
Right. I think Omer is trying to get it to troll as the Thames Water. I think it's how for all of those that know the colour of Thames Water.
If we were to do the other one, the gold deep sea, I would massively disagree with Ripley and give it a horrible miss. I just think it made me think of the Harry Enfield character, the considerably richer than Yao Brummy character draped in a massive gold Rolex. I think that's awful. I think it's absolutely terrible. But this one, I think, is kind of vanilla, but I think it'll be a massive hit.
Well, for some reason, I can't actually access it on the blog to watch coverage of it, but this is the deep sea we have in mind here.
That one, I think that's hideous.
It might be hideous, but it's just a baller watch. It's just like, yeah, go on then.
It's so impractical. You have to love it for just the audacity of this. Like, in what realm is someone going to the bottom of the Mariana Trench and is like, you know what I need for this like multi-day expedition to like one of the most hostile and rigorous places on the planet? A half pound of solid yellow gold on my wrist. Like what? You're going to go barter with the mer people down there with it? Like pull little links out? It's absolutely ridiculous, and that's why I love it. It's so impractical. It's so ridiculous. It's so expensive, but like you have to love it in the same way that there's certain cars where you're like, it's a full mirror polished version of a Ferrari. Well, is it garish? Yes, but it's awesome.
Yeah, I think if I saw someone wearing it, I know I'd hate that person. And I also think they'd be in budgie smugglers. I think they'd, like Will was saying, they're in the tight budgie smugglers.
Well, that's what comes with the watch in the box. You get a matching pair of bright blue budgie smugglers.
Tight blue and gold budgie smugglers to go to the bottom of the Mariana Trench.
I mean, if there's a market for Invictus, there's a market for this, right? So it's fine.
Will, confess. Do you have budgie smugglers that would match this? Cheers.
See you, Ripley. Yes, I mean, it's the solid gold is just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, whether you want to or not, you are heading to the bottom of the Mariana Trench if you have that on. I mean, Silvio Berlusconi is no longer with us, but if he were, he would be wearing that watch. It reminds me of. I don't know. I think it would. It's a very good watch to facilitate the movement of high value precious metals across borders without regulatory oversight. And as a lawyer, I'm only going to express my caution as to anybody wearing the watch, as to where they've been and why they're wearing it in particular. Apart from say a Richard Mille, but it's not for me. I mean, the GMT, to go back to GMT, it's perfectly nice and it's quite inoffensive and it would be quite pleasant, but it's not exciting enough. I think I'd always be looking and wondering why I didn't get the Pepsi, but there we go.
I do love the slogan, the bringing light to the deep, as if it's some sort of evangelism mission to some sort of fish that's along the bottom. We're bringing light to you in the form of gold. I mean, does gold pollute the ocean if you stay down there long enough? It maybe does, I don't know. But bringing light to the deep, it's just ridiculous. It's what people don't think Rolex do, but actually they do every year. They produce something that's just so completely OTT, and folk don't give them credit for it. We think of the wild and wacky stuff from other brands, but Rolex are just as good at kind of just, yeah, we're Rolex. Of course we can do this. We have more money than God. We can make one of these.
Yeah, I think it's the watch that for non-watch people, if you say point to a Rolex or I've got a Rolex, people immediately in their brain probably think of this exact watch, some huge gold, yellow gold monstrosity of a watch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I dare say you're right. Right, as we start to come in for landing, maybe 2, maybe 3 more brands if we're lucky. Next up is going to be, and he ducked out at the last minute, the poor lad who could have been singing the praises of this, I dare say, and that was Simon. But this Tag Heuer Monaco split-second chronograph, I actually think, I mean, it's still completely unwearable, but I'm actually impressed. I'm actually like, yeah, this I can get behind. But what about you guys? Is this a hit, a miss, or a maybe? 1, 2, 3, go. Hits, miss. Ooh, 3 misses. I can't believe I must be channeling Simon. Simon must be sticking pins into a little model of me in South Wales for me to have been forced to give this a hit. Azad, why is it a miss?
It's hideous for a start. How many? I'm trying to count how many different colours is on that dial and the bridge, and red, white, light blue, black, greys.
I mean, to their credit, they do only appear to have used 2 different fonts, from what I can tell. It's not a font monster. It could have become a font monster, bearing in mind it's clearly a colour monster. They seem to have managed not to fall foul of that trap. Guy, do you like the strap?
Strap's okay. Strap's okay on this. That's the one thing probably I do like. I just think, I don't know, for me the Monaco is like the Steve McQueen watch, and it's a classic, and this isn't. This is almost like sacrilege. It's like ruining a classic. But that might just be my like for a more vintage watch. I also think it looks quite hard to tell the time on, but
yeah, that's a fair point. It's probably that blue one. That's not going to be an easy read of the time. Will, is that your beef with it?
Yeah, it's a miss because I can't unsee the face, like the human type face on the blue in particular, with the Eugene Levy style of eyebrows.
Oh, I hadn't seen that. And now as soon as you said it.
Bingo, there you go.
Yeah.
It's as if Pixar had animated a watch, and that's kind of what it's going to look like. I think, which is probably to be really quite harsh to it, but it's so busy, and it's not particularly for me, but I understand its place in heritage, and some people absolutely love it, but for me, it's not too much. It's just a watch with a gaping mouth, some very suspicious eyebrows, very angry eyebrows. Anyway,
angry eyebrows. These particular angry eyebrows.
Yes.
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 Or
that's right.
this.
Oh,
If they were a bit more angry. Oh, there we go.
There we go. Excellent. Right. Well, I think it's fair to say that. Maybe I'm wrong, but Simon, maybe you should just come on the chat and defend this watch. Right, probably. I guess it's been claimed to be the star brand of the show so far. It appears to be getting all the action, and that is Tudor, new Black Bay GMT. This appears to be the one that everyone's shouting about. I really don't understand why. I think it's horrible. But there we go. What do you lot think? Is this a hit? Is this a miss? Or is this a maybe? Miss, hit, miss. Ooh, I have support in the camp. Azad, tell us why this is a hit for you. Why are you wrong?
I think this is the watch everybody wanted last year, but it's come through this year. But I think it looks great. It's the right size. They've slimmed it down compared to the previous one that came out. I'm less of a fan of the gilt finishing, but I'm sure there'll be another version coming out next year or even in 6 months' time that will sort that out. Yeah, I mean, I've got the big Pepsi version, and it's big. It's a difficult watch to wear. I think this will work out much better.
The original's a proper watch. That's the size watches are supposed to be. I think the gilt on this is all wrong. I just don't think it works. It looks like it's also different tones, what's on the bezel, than what's on the face. It feels confused to me. It feels like it is last year's release and what should have been this year's release combined into one to produce this watch. This feels like it should have been an iteration of a smaller GMT from last year. Oh, now we've got it with gilt on the bezel, whereas last year should just have been a plain GMT in a smaller size. Guy, what did you think?
I've given it a hit. I kind of agree on the gilt, I'm just going to say, but I've given it a hit. And one of the reasons is I think it's been a genius move on behalf of the Rolex group to kind of tease the Coke coming out as the Rolex GMT, and even people calling it the Deadpool, and then release it as a Tudor where it'll be more affordable and more people will buy it. I think whether that was intentional or not, I think that's quite a super smart move, and I think that's going to fly off the shelves. So from that point of view, I've given it a hit, and I quite like it.
Mm-hmm. Will, you joined me in the Miss Parade?
I did only because you're holding my children hostage, and I have to agree with you on this one. No, in all seriousness, I'm not a big fan of the Tudor Black Bay at all, which puts me in an extreme minority. I appreciate. I can't. For me, I can't get around the hour marker shapes with the hands and things. It just doesn't quite work for me. But I appreciate everybody loves this. All of the videos coming out. I think there've been more Tudor videos come out on YouTube today than there have been Rolex. I think probably because Rolex's puck's a little bit disappointing. But this is kind of giving the crowd what they want. And that's all I'm going to say, really, that everybody seems who likes it, loves it. And well done to them. And Tudor continues to be the more adventurous side of the Rolex Corporation, which I suppose is its main job.
In the chat, HRM is making a very valid point, which I agree with. The master chronometer bit looks wrong. I would be interested to see if it was GMT, one line master, one line chronometer. It just looks odd. It looks odd. And I'm not sure on a GMT watch whether you need to say GMT on it. It's like it's got a GMT hand. I'd forgotten. Oh, this is my GMT one. No, just count to 4. It's got 4 hands. One of them's a GMT. I mean, what do you think it is if it's not a GMT? Anyway, so yeah, I mean, it's going to be an absolutely smash hit, but I don't think for particularly good reasons. I think it's just an iteration on something else. I think it shouldn't count as a new release. However, and I think this will be our final one for today. Let's review something. It's not even a watch. Vacheron Constantin. Come to a watch show. It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. Come to a show and bring a pocket watch. But to be fair to them, what a pocket watch. Although I'm not sure it's going to be accurate for as long as the IWC, but it does have a Chinese calendar, which I suppose is important if you happen to be Chinese. I am not, so it's of no importance to me. But this is the Berkeley Grand Complication, 2,877 components, all waiting to go wrong, but it does comprise 63 horological complications. Do we like a horribly complicated watch? A hit, a miss, or a maybe? You know what? I'm holding up all 3 signs because I actually don't know. It's probably all 3 of these things combined into one. Azad, why is it a maybe?
Yeah, I mean, where do we start, really? It's, I mean, for a start, I don't need a Chinese calendar, so that's not very helpful. I mean, look, it looks really cool. It's clearly very technical. I don't really understand why they're releasing it here in this form, and they don't have anything else that they want to highlight instead. But it looks cool at the end of the day.
It does look cool, to be fair to them. I do wonder, do you think it weighs more or less than the solid gold deep sea guy?
Oh, definitely less. Definitely less. I quite like. This is kind of my point about like the boring, the boring Grand Seiko. It's like if they'd put up another kind of gold overseas, we'd be sitting here saying it's really boring, and this kind of gives you something to talk about. So I think it's kind of cool from that point of view. But I think like Rick, I kind of want to hold up all like it's. I wouldn't buy it, so it's a miss, but I think it's really cool that they've put it up, so it's a hit. So I really don't know where to go with it, but I think it's amazing they've done it, and it looks like something beyond my understanding, which is always nice.
I mean, yeah, it does look very cool. I do wonder, seeing as it took 11 years of development, and we've had COVID, then, you know, they hadn't really planned to release this at any point. It just happens that it's ready now, and it coincides with not having very much else to speak about. So, yeah, it's just a bit of an odd one as to how you plan for a thing like this. Will, would I'm guessing you're the kind of gentleman that goes to places where the occasional man is seen with a pocket watch. You strike me as a man that owns a waistcoat.
This
one. Just about. No, probably wouldn't. I think this would weigh me down. I think I'd end up looking like Run DMC or MC Hammer or somebody like that if I wore this around my neck. I'm not sure of the exact dimensions. I saw a shot this morning of, I think it was Nick Foltz with at the stand and at the Vacheron stand playing with this, and it looked huge. And I don't know. It's beautiful and it's technically extremely impressive, but it's a little bit like the kid that's clearly better than everybody else and kind of showing off and just rocks up with something that's so different and so not really of its place, that it's just like, oh, well, very well done. That's good. That's not what everybody else has done, but well done, you know. I don't know. That sounds a bit too. That sounds like super harsh from me. I'm sorry, but it is a bit. I mean, that's all you can really say. Hence the confusion of which sign do I hold up. It's like,
yes,
not appropriate really for watches and wonders, I don't think, but generally, you know, beautiful, and I'm sure a great addition to horological heritage.
Yes, we asked you to come to a watch show and bring your watches with us, and you brought us this. It's very nice.
Well, there is the wonders bit. It is and wonders. Okay. They've just gone into the wonders side.
Yes, I agree. And I don't think there's been a lot. It doesn't strike me, and we'll finish showing this. It doesn't strike me that there's been lots of wonders, but there has been lots of watches. This certainly counts as a wonder, probably alongside, I think, the Hublot and, you know, the IWC. So yeah, it gets a hit, I guess, for that reason. We'll conclude there with a final word from each of you so far. Azad, if money was no object, we'll do if money was no object, and if it was about just spending the money that was in your bank account. So the money that's in your bank account, what watch would you buy? And if money was no object, what watch would you buy that you've seen so far at Watches and Wonders?
I think either the JLC or the IWC. I just really like the aesthetic of those two. Yeah.
Good stuff. Guy, the money in your bank account versus all the money in the world, which watches would you buy?
All the money in the world, probably this Vacheron. Just, if you're going to have a watch that costs millions of pounds that you're never going to wear, like, you may as well have something like this. I think to wear... the JLC is actually the one that kind of stands out as like the really nice one, the salmon dial. I think that is, probably the winner so far.
Well, bear in mind that the answer to the question, the money in your bank account and all the money in the world is the same answer. What are you buying?
Yeah, I'm only coming to you from here because there's no Wi-Fi in my Scrooge McDuck gold vaults that I dive into nightly. And
Yes.
money's no object, the IWC, and something more reasonable is actually, I don't know. Can I throw a curveball and say what we haven't actually discussed? But is that what is around us? The Panerai.
Well, you see,
the Panerai.
We were running short of time, so I decided to avoid Panerai. But actually,
okay, well,
the Luna Rosso, that's a seriously nice.
It's something
watch.
about it. Yeah. It's a really nice watch, and I'm completely sold on it. But
I've got to say, what's become my point of expertise here is I don't like the red stripe on the strap.
I doesn't like the strap. There we go.
I like the stripe, I just don't like the red stripe. Just not that red stripe.
And on that bombshell, as somebody says somewhere else, we'll leave it at that. Thank you all very much for joining us in the live chat, and do watch it back. There'll be edited highlights of this going out in this week's podcast. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Azad and Ripley. Say goodbye, folks. Goodbye.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.